Welcome to the channel. In this video, we're going to be reviewing the new Srixon ZX MK2 Irons. In my hand, I have the ZX4, the ZX5, and the ZX7. I'm going to give you a bit of an insight into what they look like, what they feel like, and how they perform for me. And then we're going to talk about what Srixon are saying on who these are designed for. We're going to start this video off with the ZX4, Srixon's most forgiving iron in their range. Now this is designed for players that want ultimate forgiveness. We've got quite strong lofts in these irons, but ultimately by pushing weight further down into the bottom of the club might enable that ball to launch off the face just that little bit quicker. We've got a thicker top line as we look down, and you've got to remember they're looking for forgiveness, so putting weight around the perimeter of this head is always going to be there to help us. So you're going to see a slightly thicker top line. And the blade length as well. The blade length is a little bit longer from kind of heel to toe. And again, from a confidence point of view, if you've got a lot more club face to look down on, then this type of iron is going to suit the eye of many, many golfers out there. And in the previous model of the ZX4, it was kind of like a hollow construction, whereas I feel like we've kind of lost that a little bit now. We've kind of got more of what looks like a bit of a cavity in the back, and they're calling it the main frame, which is in the back of the head. They've got some channels and some different weight positions pushed around the head in order to give you consistency across the club face, give you those off-center strikes, make sure they get maximum ball speed off all of those poor strikes that we can get up and down the face and across the face. And moving on with that main frame, it kind of talks about the fact that we're getting a little bit of flex in the face. Well, I'm absolutely feeling that off the club face when I'm hitting shots. You know, when you get with those hollow construction irons, you kind of get that little bit of flexing. I'm definitely feeling it in this iron. So I've picked up all three models to talk about the sole on these clubs, and you've got the Tour VT sole in all three models. And the idea of this is to give that club an opportunity to go into the turf and then exit the turf in a nice, smooth, controlled manner. Ultimately, turf interaction is really, really important with these clubs. We've got different thicknesses on the bottom of these soles, and we'll move into the ZX7 and talk about that in just a moment. But definitely on the ZX4, we've got a nice thicker sole at the bottom. Again, for those players that tend to kind of hit down into the golf ball, this sole is going to help you sort of interact with that turf in a much, much cleaner way. So then we move into the ZX5, and seeing a lot of similarities when I look down at the ZX5 compared to the ZX4, but there's just a couple of points that I want to pick out with two of them straight away. And point number one is the fact that we're starting to see a little bit squatter in its look from heel to toe, seeing it just slightly smaller looking down on the golf ball. And then the feel off the face, where I was feeling, let's say, a little bit of springiness off that ZX4, I'm feeling now more of a solid, punchy kind of feel out of the ZX5. Very, very similar to what you would get in any kind of cavity back iron. Not feeling that flex off the face, just feeling a nice solid sensation off the face. So both ZX5 and ZX4 using that main frame technology in the head. So in all three models of the ZX MK2, you're getting progressive grooves. And what that means is that you're getting from 3 iron to 7 iron a slightly wider groove and kind of more spread out across the face to enable consistency with those longer shots. And then when you move into the lower irons from 8 iron through to pitching wedge, you're getting more sort of deeper grooves but closer together, enabling you to get maximum spin, maximum control over those shorter shots into greens. So now we move into the ZX7, and I have to say my first look of these irons, very, very similar to what I'm seeing out of the ZX5. You could probably argue that maybe the top line of the ZX7 is a fraction thinner, but to be honest with you, my eye is not picking that up. Both beautiful looking irons, but there is a slight difference when you move into this particular model, and that's when we start to look at the actual frame of the club. We now have the pure frame, and what they've done with this model is they've put 80% more carbon steel behind that position of where you're going to hit the ball consistently. So that means that anybody wanting to play this club is going to want to have a pretty impressive strike position, because they want to get it out the middle of the club to get the ultimate performance off of this club. The feel off the face, actually quite similar to what I'm getting out of the ZX5, maybe now moving more into kind of a bladey, kind of forged feel off the face. And we're getting forged across all range of these models. But it's when you kind of look at the bottom of these clubs now where you're going to start to see a little bit of a difference. And like I said before, we're getting the same sole, which is a VT sole, across all the products with Srixon right now. However, if you look down on the 4 and the 5, they actually look very, very similar in their width. It's only then when you move into the number 7 that you're going to start to see a much thinner sole. So getting a slightly different impact position with this. Somebody that tends to want to sweep that ball away and clip it off the surface are going to sort of fall into this category with the number 7, whereas people that tend to hit down on the golf ball and who need a little bit more help to get that club out of the ground are going to sort of suit nicely into the 5 and the 4. And that's the difference that you're going to see when you flip these clubs over looking on a rack. So actually some really progressive numbers when we look at these 3 irons and what they're giving me. If we look at the ZX4 to get us going with an average ball speed of 120.6 mile an hour off the face, launching it at 19 degrees with an average spin of 5,682, peaking out at 35 yards with an average carry of 172. So pretty hot off the face. If we then move into the ZX5, we've got 118.7 mile an hour off the club face, so a drop off of around 2 mile an hour. Launching it at 19.8, so pretty much the same, just a fraction higher off the face. Spin at 6,000 revs. Now, just gaining just that little bit more spin out of this iron compared to the ZX4. Peak height 35 yards high, so pretty much the same, and then an average carry of 167, so a drop off on an average of around 5 yards. If we then move into the ZX7, we're getting 115.4 mile an hour on an average off the face, so again just dropping off around 3 mile an hour again. Launch getting it at 18.5, so launching it what would be slightly lower, but again pretty much in the window of what we want. Spin now goes up again, so we got now 6,300, 6,400 revs out of this 7 iron, which is very good, and then peaking out 31 yards high, so not quite getting the peak out as much as what we're getting out of the 5 and the 4, and then the average carry of 161, so quite a progressive kind of increase in ball speed, should we say, as we work up from 7, 5 to 4, and then a decrease in yardage when we work down from 4, 5 and 7. Well, there's the numbers, there's the review of the ZX Mark II range from Srixon, and I have to say from a looks point of view, absolutely stunning. And when you look at the opportunity to be able to blend, so if you're combo setting, you can really get a nice combination right the way through the bag if you wanted to do that. But I think when you break them down into different sections of clubs, I think the ZX7 kind of plays nicely into the hands of those people who strike the ball consistently out of the middle, wanting just a little bit more of a performance out of their club if they're in that sort of category. And then you move into the ZX5. Now the ZX5 I think plays nicely for lots of golfers out there, for those players that maybe are losing their game fractionally and want a little bit more forgiveness. I think you're getting the ZX5, which kind of looks like the 7 but plays a little bit more with forgiveness. And for players that are getting better, players that are coming out of maybe game improvement irons and want to get into something that feels maybe more like a better player's club, shall we say, I think the ZX5 just ticks the box for so many players. And then we've got the stronger edition of the ZX4 giving us a little bit more power, a little bit more ball speed off the club face. I think these clubs really work well, and that's why I said the combo options for them are fantastic, and they blend from a top line, they blend really, really nicely in your golf bag. But I'd like to hear what you think. Are you somebody that's going to go out there and test the new range from Srixon? Down there in the comments, and as always, if you're new to this channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you again on the next video.